wanted to give you some thoughts on priorities when purchasing a bulb. Nowadays, consumers have many options with light bulbs. It's not just a standard bulb any longer. And so I kind of wanted to go through a few things to give you an idea of what to look for when you're purchasing a bulb and options that you have when purchasing bulbs. So I'm just going to list them real quick and then I'll go through them. So there's the factors you want to look for or consider as far as priorities when you're purchasing a bulb are cost, the upfront cost of the bulb, the energy efficiency, which affects the cost of electricity on the bulb, the life of the bulb, how long it's going to last, the color of light coming out of the bulb, the color rendered, and we'll talk about that, which is the color that you see on the object you're looking at, the brightness of the bulb, and the dimmability of the bulb. So first of all, the cost of the bulb. Now, what we're going to talk about, basically we're going to compare three types of bulbs: incandescent, fluorescent, and LED bulbs. So costs. So we all know that LED bulbs up front, they cost the most, typically 2 to 4 times, maybe more, per individual bulb. There's some LED bulbs that are cost $30, $35. You can probably get them as low as $10 if you look around. So incandescent and fluorescent. Incandescent bulbs are the cheapest bulb to buy up front. Fluorescent bulbs tend to be a tiny bit more expensive than the regular incandescent bulb. It depends on the bulb you're buying. So basically up front you're looking at incandescent bulbs are cheapest, then fluorescent bulbs, and then LED bulbs are the most expensive up front. Energy efficiency. Now, it's kind of the opposite in this regard. Incandescent bulbs are not energy efficient. In fact, when we say energy efficiency, we compare that efficiency to an incandescent bulb. So if they say they're 50% more energy efficient, they're comparing that to a regular old-fashioned traditional light bulb. So the energy efficiency in a fluorescent bulb is about 75% more energy efficient than a standard incandescent bulb, which means if you take out one incandescent bulb in your home, you can put 4 fluorescent bulbs in your home for the same cost of the electricity that you're paying for. Now for LED, they are 80 to 90% more energy efficient, which means if you take out one incandescent bulb in your home, you can put 8 to 9 LED bulbs for the same cost of electricity in your home. Okay? So now we're looking at the life of the bulb. The standard incandescent bulb, despite the packaging, in my experience, incandescent bulbs last a year and a half to 2 years nowadays, and that is the same for compact fluorescent bulbs. That's the curly Q fluorescent bulb with a little medium base on it, and that's unfortunately that's the world that we live in. And things don't last as long as they once did. And like I say, when you see packaging that says lasts 4 years, 7 years, this type of thing, is what they're doing is in a lab they're testing it. If you read the fine print, they're testing it for about an hour and a half to 3 hours per day, and so that's kind of where they get that number from. So and then LED bulbs are going to last anywhere between 15 and 25 years. Obviously, LED bulbs haven't been around that long, so they kind of do certain tests to kind of come up with this number. But the LED bulbs do last much longer. And so I saw somewhere that if you use an LED bulb more than 4 hours a day, like 6 or 8 hours a day, the upfront cost versus the cost on your electric bill will pay for that light bulb in 2 years. If you use the bulb between 2 to 4 hours a day, the LED bulb will pay for itself in about 6 years. So, and then you still have the life of the bulb, and then, okay, so we talked about life, and then the color of light. Now, when I say color of light, I'm talking about the light that you see coming out of the bulb. If you look at the fixture, old-fashioned bulbs have that warm yellow light, which also could be coined as warm white or soft white. So nowadays you can get the color spectrum all the way up to daylight. So you can get warm whites, which are like a warm yellow color. You can get cool whites or bright whites, which are just a clean white. They're not white at all, or I'm sorry, they're not yellow at all. Or you can get daylight, which is like a high blue color. And so there's a spectrum of light there between yellows and blues that you could purchase. And that is the actual color of the bulb if you were to look at it when the bulb is on. Now, besides the color of light, there's color rendered, which some bulbs you will see a color rendering index, or CRI, which traditionally doesn't apply to LED. But anyway, the idea is that when you look at an object, if you look at an orange or a banana or an apple, how accurate is that orange color or the red color of the apple or the yellow color of the banana? Now, the most accurate is an incandescent bulb. A regular incandescent bulb typically will give you a CRI of 100, which is the most accurate. And there's a lot of variation with fluorescent, although the worst color rendering is fluorescent bulbs. Sometimes you can get a CRI as low as 70. In fact, some fluorescent manufacturers don't even put the CRI on the bulb, but just by and large, fluorescent lighting is poor as far as color rendering, and that's the object that you're looking at in your home, whether it's the kitchen, living room, or if you have art or a studio or anything like that. Fluorescent is the worst in that regard. And then LED. The CRI doesn't apply to LED for technical reasons, but LED is better than fluorescent, though it's not as good as incandescent. So you can get good color from LED bulbs. And then brightness. With brightness, we are, as consumers, we're used to seeing a wattage. And before fluorescent and before LED, wattage was the brightness. You go buy a 60-watt bulb, you buy a 100-watt bulb, it's brighter than a 60-watt. But nowadays, because of energy efficiency and all these things, wattage doesn't really work the same. Technically, wattage is not brightness. Wattage is the energy consumed from a bulb. So we have to look at other factors, and the factor that really is brightness is lumens. And manufacturers are understanding this, and you'll see lumens on more packages nowadays. So the general term is wattage, and they use wattage in comparison terms nowadays, particularly with LED and fluorescent bulbs. You see, if you're purchasing a CFL and it says a 60-watt equivalent, you'll see right next to it, it'll say something like a 13 or 14 watt consumption. So what that is saying is that fluorescent bulb uses 13 watts of electricity. It gives you a comparable amount of 60 watts of light. And also on LED, you'll see the same thing. And so brightness really is lumens. If you want the most accurate number to determine the brightness, you want to look for lumens. And so the last factor that we're going to talk about is dimmability. Any incandescent bulb, whether it's halogen or any other, any incandescent bulb is dimmable with any dimmer. And so dimmability really applies to LED and fluorescent. Now, every LED bulb is dimmable, but you have to use a specific dimmer for LED bulbs. It has to be a dimmer that's made to dim LED bulbs, not a regular dimmer. They'll fit in the same spot, they look the same, but it has to be made for, it's an electronic dimmer made specifically for LED bulbs. And you can find them in your local hardware store. They're everywhere now. And the same is true for fluorescent, except that with fluorescent bulbs, not every fluorescent bulb is dimmable. You have to look for packaging that tells you that a fluorescent bulb is dimmable specifically. Most fluorescent bulbs are not dimmable, but if you want a fluorescent bulb that is dimmable, you have to look for the packaging that says it's a dimmable bulb. And then you also have to have a dimmer that is made for fluorescent bulbs to be dimmed, which typically is the same as the dimmer that you would use for LED lighting. Now, if you have a dimmer that's made for LED or fluorescent bulbs, you can also use that dimmer on standard incandescent bulbs, but you cannot use a standard dimmer for a fluorescent or LED bulb. So, there are some exceptions to that. That dimming industry kind of really doesn't have a standard yet, but we'll talk about that in future videos. So, Anyway, I hope that helps on priorities in purchasing light bulbs. Have a good day. I've even been electrocuted a few times.